So back to what I was saying. What I was saying.
What's up, friends, family, and fans? It is I, Stone Stafford, and I'm riding here with my ride or die, my partner, my co-host,
Johnny Vaughn.
Hey, and welcome to Life on Podcast. This is where we listen and inspire friends
Everywhere.
Hey, and why do we do it, man? Because life happens to everyone. Oh, you didn't chime in with me on that one.
I didn't want to miss it. I be, man, sometimes.
How do you miss it? Like I say it every
don't know.
time.
As someone who does rhythm for a living, have you gone back and listened
and
to
then
it?
you keep being like everybody.
Right. I'll either say everybody or I'll say, and then I listen to him like, why can't I say it with him? So I'm just let you have it.
All right. Well, basically, we are here for you. So, let's touch on Damar.
Yeah, Hamlin.
That's right. First of all, super happy.
Absolutely.
That he's back and recovering.
The progress
well.
he has made over the last week is phenomenal. Yes. And I'm going to say something that I don't know if it's going to surprise you.
Okay. Is it a compliment?
Well, it's not so much a compliment. It's an effect that I think that was a byproduct of what happened. Because immediately, obviously, you saw, if you don't know what happened, Damar Hamlin was almost fatally injured in the game last week, the Bills versus the Bengals, on a tackle against T. Higgins. Took a blow to the chest, made a tackle, stood up, and immediately collapsed, and then received CPR for 10 minutes. Now, 10 minutes of CPR is scary enough. I'm not going to harp on what happened, because by now, if you haven't heard the story, just go look the story up and read it. But you saw the outpouring from everybody almost immediately. Like the first thing I jumped on was Twitter, just because that was going to be the fastest place to keep with the updates. Yep. And the number one thing I just kept thinking was like, this is the kind of thing that galvanizes energy. And you can call it what you can say. It was the power of prayer, but I personally started feeling like it was the fact that it was that many people focusing on one thing that played a really, really big part in his recovery. And I'm tying it to that, given everything else that people want to pull out of the woodwork and say that it had something to do, which we're going to touch on. But it was amazing to me to see how many people were typing prayers, voice message prayers that were hitting online. And I have to admit, I feel like I felt that energy moving.
What I find ironic is in a country that has become increasingly aggressive and anti-prayer, when the poo hits the fan, it's the first thing we turn to. And some of that's going to be out of, it's all we know to do. Some of it's going to be out of, traditionally, that's just what happens. And, this is where I wouldn't be surprised where you and I go like this on. And to me, I just feel like there's just an unspoken, intangible knowing of what happens in that kind of a situation, in a prayer situation, that we just know, and we gravitate to it. There's something to be said about that, but maybe on another podcast.
Okay.
But
I think it was the collective intent of the masses, and that energy moves. You had so many people that were focused on the health and well-being of this individual.
Only we can just live in that energy every day.
Well,
I mean, I know that's such a utopic kumbaya. Yeah, we've been baby steps.
Baby steps.
Now, millions of years. But
what I absolutely have to touch on is that the people, the players, his brothers on the field, the fans showed that. From my vantage point, the NFL didn't. And anyone who was watching that game, it became cringeworthy.
Know how long it was taking?
20 minutes into it, because one, it was just filler, and the correspondents that they had chiming in, and they were just buying time. They should have cut to something else, because at that point, the only thing we needed to know was, is the NFL going to stop this game?
Right.
That's all anybody was worried about. And the longer it took from them, from my vantage point, to make that decision, showed the insensitivity of the league,
right?
In my viewpoint. Now, there are some rumors that came out that the NFL gave the teams 5 minutes warm-up periods, and then they were going to restart the game.
Now, Troy Vincent dispelled that.
I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that. I'm trying to decide where to get to it at.
All right.
I think Troy Vincent had to dispel that because the league can't look bad. The Shield can't look bad.
But he would have to have told a straight up lie because he literally said that was never even a consideration, and he's not sure where ESPN got that from.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're above lying.
This is where I'm going.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're above lying.
There's very rarely anything that comes out when it has to do with the NFL that didn't start in some truth somewhere. ESPN ain't just make that up,
right?
And that's, I mean, I hate to say it, ESPN does get some stuff wrong, but when something that egregious happens, a conversation had to happen at some point.
Yeah,
because they're talking about that. I guarantee the NFL has to talk about it because the game did have implications on the playoffs.
But though, how when something unprecedented, especially an urgent emergency happens, the first concern, especially in the age of social media now, is disinformation.
Yeah.
And how someone can literally just even suggest something, but it takes on an affirmation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe they didn't even suggest it. Maybe someone could have been like, do you think the players are going to want to play again? Well, what are we going to do? Give them a 5-minute warm-up and play? And say that. And someone hear that and then be like, they're going to give them 5 minutes and warm-up. And then that's what comes out to us.
Yeah.
Completely probable.
That absolutely could have happened.
And it happens. But it had stuff like that has happened.
I've been in war rooms and have watched that happen.
Sure.
I have. But the thing is, while that was happening, the NFL, as powerful as it was, had all the time in the world to dispel that. They could have immediately put out a statement saying this game is not going to continue. However, we are working on details on how to go forward because the game does have implications. Now, this is where I want to get to Skip Bayless. Okay. And I'm going to read the most okay, there's two sides to seeing what Skip wrote. And if you didn't, I'm just going to read it to you.
I tried to look at both sides, and I saw the side you're about to talk about.
I see both sides, but I'm on the side of he shouldn't have been working the next day. This is what he tweeted. No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game. But how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. He was trying to be poetic in a sense, which...
Soon as that fool's an outcome, I disengaged.
Yeah. That's where punctuation matters. There are no quotations in there. There are no parentheses. There's nothing to delineate that post from his actual thought.
Right.
So can I see what his potential intent was in writing that? Absolutely. But in that moment, and I believe he wrote that 15 or 18 minutes after, we're happened. Yeah. I don't even know if Damar was in the ambulance yet. When
even
he tweeted
if what he said, there was nothing quote unquote wrong with what he said. Doing what you've done for so many years, you should at least understand the concept of timing.
Time and place.
Good Lord, man.
Absolutely.
And why in the world you don't see why people have a problem with what? That's the other thing. He was like, I stand by what I said. I said nothing wrong. Now we're going to get into semantics again. Because it's like, okay, technically, did you say anything wrong? No, if you said that on Thursday night and nothing happened. Yeah, no, you ain't saying nothing wrong. Yeah. But come on, bro. Like,
too soon is a real thing.
And then my whole thing, Skip, for you, and maybe he said this somewhere in a tweet somewhere, so I will put that out as a disclaimer. But from what I've seen and read so far, for you not to acknowledge how what you could have said seemed or came off as insensitive. To not even acknowledge that, honestly, that says more about you.
Absolutely.
And this is why I'm not supposed to call you a clown.
Call him a clown, though. Skip's a clown. Skip shouldn't be working. Skip should not have a job. Skip has 3 egregious moments over the last 6 months that this should have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
He should have gotten some kind of off-mic reprimand on that.
Oh, absolutely.
And
but he did. I don't know if he did.
Yeah, I'm not there. I don't know. And not to their credit, but one thing Troy was trying to clear up, and granted, I can see how this kind of crap can take time. Because he said there was fluid communication right from the jump.
Yeah.
Right? And then we look at everyone that they had to communicate with.
Right.
From the NFL, Roger Goodell, then the players union, then both coaches. I can see where the time of all of that to make sure everyone's on the same page. And it wasn't even asking, should we end the game? It was more of a thing of, look, we're going to end this thing, blah, 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 and make sure everyone's on the same page with that. I can see where that can take a while.
Oh, sure.
Okay, granted, maybe not an hour. That I don't know.
It shouldn't have taken that long.
It shouldn't have is one thing. But because it did, does it mean they were being insensitive and not doing anything is my question.
We know for a fact that the era we live in, optics is generally the most important thing.
Sure.
And the number one statement that you saw floating, someone made a sign out there on the field, and it had it up. So the only thing important right now is Damar's life. That's it. Mm-hmm. Nothing else mattered. Mm-hmm. PR for the league should have initiated a statement immediately saying the most important thing right now is the well-being and health of Damar Hamlin.
Right.
Everything else is secondary. That would have been enough to stave off the speculation that became what is happening or what has happened.
Whoever had the power to say what I say goes, which would be Roger.
Yeah.
He's the one that should have done that.
And
anyone below him, I can see not just shooting out with a statement just off the hip. And I can see wanting to make sure everyone understands what's happened. Granted, I can understand why that would be. So if anyone should have just came right out and be like, right now, the only thing that matters is Damar Hamlin's life.
Right.
We're figuring out what to do next. Boom. Because if Roger says it, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't do it. So, of course, with all of that happening, and because the optics look so bad, you then start to wonder, is it profit over people?
Absolutely. And that right there is my number one problem with this whole thing. Let's go ahead and touch on the numbers. I pulled it up because I wanted to make sure I got the numbers right. So the NFL has a split amount that you receive contractually when you make it to the injury reserve. If you get hurt, it protects the NFL from having to pay out, or protects the teams from having to pay out a full contract in the event that a player is injured. Is it fair to the player? Absolutely not. Because can you control being injured to that extent? No.
Business-wise, though, you can understand why they would have a clause.
I understand what those clauses are from a business perspective. However, is it fair? That's a whole other thing. And it goes to that question you just asked. Is it profit over people?
Sure.
So when we get down to it, I'm going to read this verbatim. Essentially, Hamlin was set to earn $825,000 for the 2022 season, with his split amount on injured reserve being $455,000. For 1 week spent on IR, that's a difference in pay of $20,555.56. Now, the cool thing about this is the last part of this paragraph is, but the team has decided to award Hamlin his full salary, even though he won't be on the active roster.
Right.
It took his coach deciding we're going to take care of our guy. Now, I'm not saying the NFL wasn't on board when it was presented that way, but they still had to negotiate something to make it okay for the team to do that.
But let me ask you a question now. Put yourself in the NFL's boat, because one of the first things I know that I think I would have been concerned with is precedence.
Yeah.
Because I would have been like, okay, so now we have to define what type of injury is serious enough where we will go ahead and award them the full contract.
Sure.
Does everyone have to be at the point where they pretty much were about to literally die? If that's the case, then that clause needs to be in there.
Right.
Because if by doing this one exception, God forbid if something like this should happen again, they're going to call on this.
Absolutely.
So that I can totally see where that would have to be a
Given
conversation.
that we work in worlds where contracts are staple. I mean, without them, your entire business collapses. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't understand the legalities that instance presents. But at the same time, I think that precedent absolutely needs to be set at this point, because will you have players from the past that can say, well, hey, I had a similar situation, or I had, and there have been concessions with players who've died, and then the league has made concessions to make sure that that their pensions are paid out to their families. But it needs to be structured that way. A machine the size of the NFL that takes such pride in owning its brand the way it does, and will bring legal action against. And I mean, I've accidentally said Super Bowl on the air before.
Y'all got a letter.
And it didn't, it wasn't, there was a phone call. And it happened quick. So given that there's that much forethought, they protect themselves so well, I would personally think with the size of the legal team that they have, that almost every scenario would be pre-thought out as close as possible. Because I mean, CTE's been front and center as a conversation for the last 10 or 15 years. So they've been talking about the health of their players and how they're going to take care of them. There's no way you're going to get me to believe that the NFL and their legal team haven't had conversations about almost or near-death experiences on the field.
Well, they have.
I mean,
what was it years ago when, I forget the player's name, but, he died on the field. So it happened once and only once. But what about the people who become permanently debilitated, paralysis? To me, that's the second worst thing that can happen, if not dying.
Absolutely.
But, what do you do then? So I get it. I get it.
This brings us into the question that you asked that was on my mind for this whole thing, is that the machine, whatever that machine is, whether it's the entertainment industry, which athletics fall under entertainment in my book. I mean, it's gladiators.
No, it absolutely
so
is
it's absolutely
entertainment. Please don't get that twisted.
Yeah,
it's entertainment.
But I mean, there are countless examples across
record labels.
Absolutely, of the artist or the creator or the writer or the athlete or the talent being sacrificed for the sake of a dollar. And
now, would you call Damar's scenario, let's say they didn't award him his full contract or whatever and stuff like that, would you call that a sacrifice?
No.
And what would be a sacrifice?
Had that conversation about 5-minute warm-up, we resume the game, not taking into account the mental stability of his brothers that are on that field, his coaches, just the atmosphere in general. That's the side. And I mean, and to be honest with you, the entire time we were waiting to hear anything, that's what I was thinking. I was like, the NFL is going to play this game. The NFL is about to force these men to go back on this field with this on their mind, not knowing his condition, and finish his game. I thought that's what was going to happen.
Right.
That absolutely would have been. Anything short of that, I don't think would fall under that.
Right.
But the optics, again, from what we were presented with the NFL not at least issuing a statement quick enough to stave off rumors, puts us in the mindset that, I don't care what Troy said, y'all absolutely had a conversation about them finishing in this game tonight. And there's nothing you can do to make me think you didn't talk about it in some way, shape, or form. But I understand what PR cleanup is, too. So I'm, again, not accusing Troy of anything. I like Troy a lot, and I think he's done a great job working with that intermediary and dealing with the NFLPA and the league and going and actually trying to make things fair. But you're not going to be able to convince me that there wasn't a conversation about sacrificing this man's life in this moment and then playing this game because of how much weight it held on the playoffs, giving Skip Bayless's tweet some credence with that. So that's what I think.
If they had that conversation, you know me, I'm the believe the best of people. I would like to think it'd be in the context of have the players warm up. If they revive him within the next several minutes and it looks like he'll be okay, have them warm up, we'll resume. I would like to think it might have been in that context. You know what I mean? As opposed to no matter what happens, warm up. As soon as you get him off the field, we're going to play. Because I can see where if it didn't take as long as it took for one, and if they did revive him, even if he wasn't able to put a thumbs up, but if they revived him and said, we have him stable, and they moved off, I can see where that might be then they'll be like, how did the coaches feel? How did the players feel? Do you guys feel like playing? I can see that being the conversation. So in that context, then maybe a conversation might have been had in that context.
The only caveat I can see that would be that card that topples that would be the fact that he received CPR for 10 minutes.
Right, and that's what I said, the length of time.
And I mean
the length of time.
At that point,
it's not like he was down for 10 minutes.
No.
That entire time.
He was not breathing.
Right, and the defibrillator. I mean, once the defibrillator comes out, to be honest with you, it don't matter if you recover or not. Game's canceled.
That should have been a done deal. And that's where I'm at on it. So yes, 100%. I think that's valid what you said, but I think that time when you've got medical staff on the field that can tell you that this is not, I mean, we're afraid at this point that he's not going to make it.
Right.
It shouldn't have been a conversation.
All right,
and we should have gotten something from a PR standpoint stating that we understand the moment, and because of the moment, we're ending this now.
So, but you said something. So we talked about, is it a case of a whole profit over people? And but I like that you expanded it because this isn't just an issue with the NFL or sports. And we even mentioned record labels. A lot of people don't know how, record labels take out insurance policies for the artists. Now, someone might say, well, that's just good business or whatever. And I can see why you might say that, right? Especially in sports, because, you're set up in a situation, especially contact sports, I should say. You're set up in a situation where the probability of something happening to your player is high, right? But when you look at record labels, first of all, you have to understand, as a player, you see yourself as a talent and as a human, but as a business, you're an asset. I mean, that's just what you are. You're an asset. And it doesn't sound pretty. It doesn't sound personable and all that crap, but it's a business. You are an asset.
I want to read something real quick because I had to Google it because I remember this number specifically. It's $17.5 million. I'll never forget that. And this is just the headline. AEG drops its claim on Monday for a $17.5 million insurance policy for Michael Jackson just days after emails revealed the concert promoter had doubts about Jackson's health at the time they were applying for the insurance.
Dog! Well, I mean, I'm not laughing at Michael Jackson's death.
No.
But yeah, you kind of.
I'll never forget that because I'm just like, what?
So again, you have to see things from both sides. As the insurer, because it says in your policy anyway, except for pre-existing or knowledge of pre-existing. So when they found out that you knew something could be wrong, I mean that was their standard, So I don't know if that was anything crooked. The reason why sometimes I might side eye a record label is because we had a label here at Icon who had a meeting. And it got out that there was a concern brought up with them signing essentially convicts, literal gang members and people who were known to live a violent lifestyle. That's nothing new in rap, as we know. So I'm not breaking any news there. But the concern was brought up that it seems to be more them, and they were paying more attention to them than like their singers and people who weren't of that lifestyle. And the comment was, we appreciate your concern. However, if those MFers are moving or selling millions of units, sign them MFers. Was the point. Yeah. And now to some, that might seem like just a money move. Well, it's all a money move. Yeah. But it might seem just like a business thing. But if you take a life insurance policy out on a high-risk artist, it becomes a little more than just, we're just doing business and they just happen to pass away. Now that becomes a calculated move because you realize that there's a good chance this artist may or may not be around because of their own actions. So we need to make sure we profit off of that. Yeah, the excuse is because they've taken away our ability to profit off of the asset that we signed. Right. That's what they'll say. But it's still a calculated money move. And don't forget, there's money to be made, especially the more popular the artists, to be made posthumously off of posthumous releases.
There's no shortage of stories and rumors out there about the life insurance policies that were taken out on Pac and Biggie.
Right. So that's when you have to look at where businesses, they're not ignorant to whole putting profit over people. And if you want to move outside of entertainment, we won't talk about all the complaints about Amazon and McDonald's and Walmart, long, ridiculous hours. There, what was it, Family Dollar? There was a big, if you go on Reddit, actually, there's a page, not even Reddit, what's the name of a place where you go to find out about job? Glassdoor. Glassdoor.com. It's where you can kind of get a feel of how people feel about that job, and you can apply. But on Glassdoor, there were employees that complained of how, like, a Family Dollar will have you stay overnight to do stuff. And I worked in retail, at the Gap, and there were some times when we had to do overnight shifts or whatever. We got paid at Family Dollar. They didn't get paid. Right. And they were complaining about this. So, again, that's profit over people. So it absolutely does happen, for sure. Yeah. And it just brings me to ask this question. And I don't know if there's much power you have when you're the talent, whether it's an employee of a company, whether you're a songwriter, or whether you're a star athlete. Is how do you protect yourself
against these machines. I mean, you hear about players in college. They'll take out $10 million insurance policies on themselves, because in the event you get injured in college, that completely diminishes your ability, or not completely diminishes, but it shortens your prospects for what your longevity is going to be at the next level where you can make money. Now, the NIL has changed things, given that players can get paid based off of their name, image, and likeness now. Right. But before that, you had star athletes who'd been recruited since they were in middle school, right, who would get to college, be standouts, be projected to get drafted, top round, whatever in the first round, and then get injured their sophomore, junior year, and that ends their career in essence. Right. So going into everything, knowing that the machine is going to look out for itself, like you said, it's best practices for business to ensure your assets. You are an asset. No matter where you are, whether you're an employee or whether you're an athlete or whether you're a singer, you're an asset to the promoters, to the production company, to the league, to the record label. And they're going to insure their assets because they've got an investment. But at the same time, sometimes those insurances don't necessarily take care of you if you're at loss.
So how do you do that?
So it's how do you do it? Right. And it's, I mean, we get into the basics of just taking out life insurance on yourself personally and having, workman's comp on your personal LLC and stuff. But I mean, it's more, I don't want to get into deep of how to do it. I know what the answer is for every individual person. Only thing is having the conversation of knowing that no matter what you're getting into, what business path you're following, when you become an asset to somebody else, yes, you're an asset to yourself, but you're more of a commodity to the person that's providing the opportunity to you than you are a person in most instances for what I see. They see the dollar amount. And the events of last week, I'm going to stand by it. The amount of time it took to shut that stuff down proves that the Shield was thinking at least having the conversations about doing something that I see as being inhumane given what was happening. And every business is going to do that, especially the music industry, especially the television industry. They're going to do that. Man.
And I definitely don't have any answers on that, to be honest with you. Outside of what you said, just do what you need to do personally to take care of yourself financially. But of course, I mean, when you're talking health and well-being, I mean, there's no money in the world that can replace that.
Oh, absolutely not.
You know what I'm saying? So you just have to know what it is, what you're getting into at the end of the day, and know the risks that are involved, and don't undervalue or underestimate, those risks based off of the potential of the reward.
And don't expect the machine
to care about you,
to treat you like a human.
Right. Right. They will for ethical reasons, but other than that, you're not in black and white. Yeah. And the black and white part is what counts.
The number one phrase you hear in football all the time is next man up. You hear that at every level. And
absolutely.
The second I saw Damar fall, that's what I kept hearing in my head. I was like, somebody is saying that without finding out how he's doing. Yep. Because you don't just collapse like that. That's not a normal thing. Like that, there were athletes that had been playing sports longer than I had ever dreamed of playing that said they've never seen anything like that.
I've never seen that.
And I mean, I've seen stuff like that inside. I mean, there's been some soccer players that had similar situations where I've seen it happen. But you can't expect a profitable company who has shareholders to care about an individual. The next man up mentality is what it is. And in that moment, I was just hoping nobody said it. Because if those words had come out, if anyone had tweeted it.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't even imagine. I just couldn't even imagine.
That destroys all optics. And that's what was on my mind. That's the first, because that's what you hear. As a player, when a man goes down, the second string, third string needs to be as good to be able to take his place.
And which is a case in point, too, is that you're replaceable.
Yeah.
You may not be expendable, but you're replaceable.
No matter how amazing and how great you are.
Right. No matter. You might not, someone might not be a carbon copy of you, but make no mistake, you are absolutely 100% replaceable. So a takeaway I would think would be is whatever situation you go into when you're signing contracts, getting a job or whatever, I always say it, contracts are for when things go wrong. Contracts are not when everything works out like they're supposed to. So when you go into a scenario, if you're signing a deal or you're signing a contract, you have to ask yourself, okay, what if the crap hits the fan and this doesn't work out?
Right.
We always put the eggs in everything's about to happen. This is the way it's going to work out now. That's where we put all of our eggs.
Yeah.
You need to go into the situation of, okay, what if this thing blows up in my face? And think of the worst case scenario and work backwards and try to have some type of plan for that. Mm-hmm. If you do, that's really the best position you can put yourself into, and you won't be caught off guard. It doesn't make the tragedy, if it is, or whatever goes wrong, it doesn't make the sting any less, but it does cause the sting to be shortened because you're prepared for it and you have a plan.
Right.
So what if you guys are out there, you're entertaining record deals, publishing deals,
radio contracts,
sports deals, contracts. Yeah. Ask your agent, ask whoever, your attorney, whoever is working with you, get on the internet, speak to someone who's done it. Be like, what can go wrong in this scenario? Mm-hmm. And I mean, get as much of it as you can. And
make up scenarios.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then try to come up with contingency plans to meet those scenarios. Mm-hmm. You'll be much better off for it, I think.
Absolutely. I'm gonna just, outside of that, I mean, I'm coming from a real human perspective on this one, not even so much on a business level, but it's just, the people who are in control at the top of every industry right now are going to start phasing out. And those of us who will be taking those places, I hope that we move into those positions with more of I'm hoping. I'm smoking some hope.
Wait a minute, I was going to say, wait. Did y'all just hear that? Did y'all just hear that?
Smoking.
Johnny, you might want to rewind that. Johnny just said, I'm
smoking some hopium on this one.
Wow, there is a God.
You need Johnny to hope to believe.
Kids, all things are possible.
more of an empathetic and sympathetic hand can be brought to business at every level.
The only reason why that makes me scary, and this is a whole nother topic, and this is all I'm going to say because this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I just watched the movie Megan, and there were 2 scenes in that movie where they absolutely knew what they were doing, and I feel like they were testing the pushing of the envelope ethically, and they knew what they were doing, and it was disturbing.
Yeah,
it was disturbing.
Yeah.
So when I just say all that to say that's who's coming up right now.
Yeah.
So my faith in that is less and less. This is the first time where you may have a little more hope than I do.
Well, look at it this way. If me smoking a little bit of hopium can prove that there is a God, there should be enough of a mustard seed to believe.
There is a mustard seed, and we know how powerful those could be.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And it is. It's a coin flip. It's a 50-50 of who we get. But when moments like that happen, you saw us as a people get behind the well-being of a person.
And that should be probably the new focus on this whole thing. People, we can do it.
Yeah.
We prove it over and over again that we can work together, we can come together. You literally know how to put your differences and your griefs and your beefs aside. Mm-hmm. We have shown we can do that over and over again. And guess what? When everything's done, when the dust settles, we then choose, make no mistake about it, we choose to pick up those differences, those griefs, and those beefs, and to walk in that toxic path. Why we choose that is a whole nother study and podcast. But, we've done it before, man.
Big up to Damar Hamlin's circle.
Family. Yeah.
His family.
In the circle.
Much his love, friends who
continued recovery.
Absolutely. Who kept praying. Big up to the doctors who with steady hands did what they were blessed to do.
Emergency responses. Shout out to you guys, man. Seriously.
I can't think of his name. Who was the? Oh man, I wish I could Google it real quick. The trainer who gave him CPR for 10 minutes.
Honestly, I don't know. But I wanted to say Commodio cordis is the name of the condition that they said it was, and it's where you receive an impact to the chest so hard. It can cause you to go into cardiac arrest. In case anyone was wondering, that's what it was, Commodio.
Yeah, it was not vaccine related.
Oh, Jesus.
I didn't touch on that.
Oh, I don't want to.
But
man,
I will say this: as we grow and get better at coming together, like Stone says, let's stop using terrifying moments for our political positioning, because that's neither the time nor place either. You look like a Skip Bayless when you do that. You look insensitive. And as much as you may think you're presenting information that people don't have, we know all this stuff. We've been following it just like you. this young man possibly could have died, and you're talking about results of a vaccine or not, and that's. I'm not gonna drag you into it. I thought you were about to say something.
I'm about to say the website.
Okay. Okay. I'm just asking.
That just pisses me off.
As we continue to evolve, let's evolve away from that. Is what I'm asking.
No, that I agree with.
And shout out to Damar Hamlin's. Not just him, but everybody who participated in this. His charity. It started as he had a GoFundMe for a toy drive.
Yeah.
And I believe before the injury, I might have his number
Just
wrong.
hand clap to everyone who donated and got that thing. Granted, I didn't, and there's no reason why I didn't. So, and there's no reason why I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. So let's be clear on that. But I do just hand clap to everyone that supported that.
From 20,000 to I believe over 8 million.
Yeah, to the children that are going to benefit from that.
Absolutely.
Of course, everything being done decent and in order and correctly and ethically. Mm-hmm. The children that would benefit from that, y'all changed lives, hopefully. Yep. So seriously, congratulations to everyone that participated in that.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't want to make this all somber stuff. I just felt like it was... I probably went off the rails a little bit more than what the conversation should have been. But I think it was important to have because it showed that, one, we can come together, like you said. And then, two, just being mindful that when you're following what you're following, when you're going down the path of whatever your dreams are or whatever your career path is that be mindful that the machine has your best interest at heart so long as it benefits them financially.
Boom.
You have to be mindful of what benefits you and take those precautions.
Yeah. Yeah, in business, people, it typically is profit over people. Yeah. I can't say always and 100%, but more often than not it is. So just understand that and protect yourself. LifeOnPodcast.com. That's where you can follow us on any platform that you want, including YouTube. So whatever you do, if you do, check us out. We appreciate you. We want to say thank you very much. And just make sure you hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. You can turn the notifications off if you want. But the subscribing and liking helps our algorithm, as many of you already know. So our goal is still 1 million subscribers in 2023. So we thank you guys for helping us with that. If you want to check me out personally, you can do so at stonestafford.com.
Just Johnny Vaughn, JUSTJONYVAN everywhere.
There it is. We appreciate you guys. We love you. We'll see you next week. We're out. Peace.
So back to what I was saying. What I was saying.